M. Who is there? So folks, today we have other T. He will explain the rank of matrix history. Very nice guy. Yes, anime fan and so on. So actually he's a really nice person and he's starting to do his stuff.
So today Alex asked me to explain rank of matrix to you. The thing is, you should have covered these topics like several labs ago, but your TAs, Alec included, forgot to add this topic to their slides, so we have to cover it now. Thank you. Actually, the definition is really simple. Given that you remember what linear independency is, like you should have covered it somewhere on third lecture, if I'm correct. But, you know, I used to be a first year student too, and I remember that at least half of my group mates, like, didn't know what linear independency is. So instead of explaining this topic to you, which is a bit harder, I have a different approach, a different definition of matrix rank. So today, we'll do some recap of lectures that you had, and then I will explain rank of matrix to you, and then you'll be able to solve some simple tasks. Do you remember what span is? Like, at least someone, at least raise your hand. Okay, not the only one. The span king here. Okay. I will show you some nice drawings. I think every day should start with handwritten drawings. I'm no exception. So, span of math. Suppose we have some arbitrary vector, right? What can we do with the vector?
Multiply by a scalar and some other vector.
Yeah. We can multiply it by some random scalar. Then we take some other scalar and multiply. If we multiply a vector by all scalars we can think of, what do we get?
Here's span.
Yeah. We get a line. Like, given any vector, we multiply it by all the scalars we can think of, like by 2, by 3, by 4, and in the end, we get a line. So the definition is simple. We say that vector A, which was a few slides before, spans this line. In Russian, you can say like прорезает линию, покрывает линию, является линейной оболочкой линии. There are so many different definitions, but in English it's pretty simple. It spans. Yeah, better. Suppose we have two vectors. Again, what can we do with vectors? We can
add them. Sum them. Multiply each vector by a scalar and also sum.
Yeah. So the sequence of steps is actually similar. We take these two vectors, multiply them by all scalars we can think of, then sum these vectors, and in the end, get something. Like, we can multiply by 0, by this value, sum them, and when we iterate infinite amount of times, infinite number of times, we'll get some plane. I tried. Okay, suppose we have three vectors. Given three vectors, we can also multiply, sum them, and get some three-dimensional space in 4 dimensions, or in 5, or whatever. Given 4 vectors, we can span a 4-dimensional space, but unfortunately, I cannot draw it, so I stopped at that. But before we continue, I have a question for you. Is it true that given two distinct vectors, we can span a plane?
No.
Louder, louder.
No, if they're linearly dependent, then the span is going to be a line.
Yep. Sometimes we can have multiple vectors, but they do not span a plane or three-dimensional space, but just all their combinations give us a line. So why I started with span? Because the definition of matrix rank is easier to understand when we talk about spans. It's a revised definition. You can have a look at it. Is it clear? Yeah. So, a second. Just a simple example. We have this matrix. 1, 2, 4. These 2 columns. If we take these 2 columns, they just span a line. But if we put here 3 instead, let's see. Like with these 2 vectors, we can span a plane. Like somehow multiply them, add, and whatever. Don't care, it was about linear independency. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah,
Great. Actually, sometimes we have some matrices, and when we like take this matrix or this one, we cannot span anything except for a point. So we say that the rank is 0. It is also trivial. Sorry, I lost my thoughts. Actually, I wanted to give you some task here, but there is a problem that for now we can find span of some simple matrices, but it is harder for matrix 3 by 3 and so on. So we'll come to it later. There is a good property about rank. You can read it here. Like, given any matrix, the number of dimensions you can span with its columns is equal to the number of dimensions you can span with its rows. Like, you can look at the example there and clarify for yourself. Yeah. Yeah. They span a line and they span a plane. It's pretty simple. Just keep in mind, because sometimes, if you have task like finding rank of a matrix, instead of looking at columns, you can look at rows, or instead of looking at rows, you can look at columns, and it will simplify things for you. And okay, before we come to the actual tasks, just a slight notice that the matrix does not have to be square. It can be... Как прямоугольник по-английски? It can be rectangular, but everything applies. Like this definition applies to a rectangular matrix. So there are three approaches to finding rank of a matrix. We looked at the first one, when you take a matrix and just look at its columns or rows and say, it's pretty obvious that 1, 2, and 2, 4 just can give you a line. But suppose you have something like this. Yes. By looking at it, can you say how many dimensions we can span? 3. But are you sure? Because you remember,
2.
we had two vectors, but they span just a line, a one-dimensional line. So this could happen here. We have 3 vectors, but it's possible that they will span 2 lines or 1 line, or if they were all zeros, they would span just a point. I guess some of you already solved. Like, who said that it is 2? How did
If
you?
we add first and third vectors, we will get twice second vector.
Some people already noticed that 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1. If we take the first row, if we take the second row and sum them, it will be equal to the second row. But okay, we eliminate this row. But how are you sure that these two are? Okay, they are independent, but still. Imagine you have some 5 by 5 matrix. The task will be much more difficult. And therefore, we need some other approach to find it. Actually, I can show you the following task. And before we start solving them, I need to show you some other approach. Remember when you were finding inverse matrix, you had like I here, A there, and then yeah. We try to do it this way. Remember? So in the end, here you had something like 1, 1, 1, 1, zeros, zeros, whatever. Actually, sometimes matrix A is not invertible. Sometimes you can get something like this, 0, 0. When you come to this form, the number of ones you have is equal to rank of a matrix. Like here we have 2 ones, so rank is equal to 2. And if it was like this, then rank would be equal to 4.
Should the ones be in other columns or
again.
Should the ones be in another columns or row? Like in for one in same row, we consider it.
I mean, when you get to this form, like this, when you have only ones, you will have 1 per column. Yeah.
Do we have some special terminology for this? 1, 1, 0.
Yeah. It's called row reduced echelon form.
No. The points, not the how it is.
It's called pivot or pivot. It's like pivot but with T at the end. So
Thanks.
yeah. Actually, when you're searching for rank of a matrix, you don't need this, you don't need that. You just take your matrix A and in a number of steps try to produce the identity matrix or any other matrix where you have ones and whatever. Then you count the number of pivots and that's your rank. I suggest that you try this method on the previous task, even though you already know the answer, just try it for yourself.
Can we use this method for a rectangular matrix?
Rectangular? Yes.
And
If your matrix is I don't want to go there. If your matrix is rectangular, in the end you will just get something like 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So it's totally okay. Is there anyone to whom my explanation was unclear? Anyone who did not understand how we arrived to the
It will be on
solution?
midterm, guys. Midterm will be on next week. You know? So it's better to ask questions now than ask questions on midterm.
I mean,
Is there any point to like have the right part, or you just
It will be on next week.
no, as said, you don't need the right part. Я ее зачеркнул даже. Зачеркнул ее.
You can prepare to be both, guys.
How we can try to find the identity matrix for non-square matrix?
It will be like this.
Only
So-
in different columns.
Like, I mean, we are not trying to find the identity matrix, but rather we are trying to. We use the same approach, but our goal is different.
Try to make as possible as 1 and 0.
Yes. Like we can get something like this, or something like that. So it means that rank is equal to 2. And here, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. Rank is equal to 1.
We cannot have more than one ones in one line or column.
Okay.
No, like if you have 2 ones or 2, if you have 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, you can just take this row and subtract it from this row to get 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, minus 1.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1. Here in the third example, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. Except this 0 in the middle. Here, or the here is 1.
Okay. Okay. You're
Or in
right.
the second row, or like that.
Okay, sorry. My bad. I mean, Actually, we don't care what we have here. The point is to get zeros here and count the number of pivots. For anyone who missed the point, we just discussed that you should get just a triangular matrix, like 1, 1, 0, 1, zeros. And here you can have whatever, like any numbers. It should be triangular. Yeah, I know that it isn't a triangle, but whatever. Any success?
Yes.
То есть у нас должно быть от главной диагонали слева все нули, а там не важно, что это будет единица.
На главной диагонали будут единицы или нули. Ниже главной диагонали нули. Выше главной диагонали любой мусор.
Вот здесь должно быть. А вот здесь же должно быть.
Okay, let me write the solution, I guess, and we will come to the next task. Okay, guys, here is the solution. Like, you multiply this by 2 and subtract from here to get this row. You just subtract this from here to get this row. And, well, they're equal, so you subtract minus 2, minus 1, minus 1. And there you have it. One pivot, pivot, whatever. Bless you. Bless you. Храни Господь. Rank of A. That's the notation actually. Equals to 2. Who wants to solve the next task?
I want.
Okay. There were two voices, so like we have part A, part B. Someone solves A, someone solves B. You're welcome. Actually, B is much simpler than A. I promise. Which one will you solve? You have the right to choose. Someone wants to solve A. Anyone wants to solve A here? Like, if you can solve A here, then you can solve all of the midterm. Почему испугался?
Но тебе же надо, у тебя что-то не будет линейной зависимости сильной, если ты только за петушками работаешь. Ну, смотри, обычно сверху, просто вот ты сверху, ты сверху. Когда вот ты заметил, что на работе, ну, обычно как сейчас ты видишь, что надо сделать, что ты вообще не споришь, что ты сделаешь. Тогда надо просто очень большое выражение лучше. Ну, то есть идея такая, работает в компьютере, но просто очень больная. Да, вот это вот. Хотя, в принципе, все сказать. А, что можно почитать.
Ну, то есть переменные как будто переписать, да, ты мой пример сократил. Ну, типа, у тебя x, y, z было, а ты сделал x, z, y. Ну, ты понял, что это не так. В таком случае ты можешь
Просто
ставить.
будет тяжелое выражение, на которое прошлое надо что-нибудь забить.
Просто зачем?
Не вместо это тоже просто слишком маленькая А тебе же нужно что-то нижнее аннулировать из верхнего на нижнее переводить. Я обычно
Я на самом деле не люблю это.
нам все будет раскрывать.
Хотя бы одна есть, да? Больше получается. Больше. А другая не у тебя, смотри. В данном случае у тебя точно
все,
ты берешь очень ранг 1. У тебя есть число белых? Есть. Ранг 2. А ты берешь 2 на 2.
Сюда я запишу.
2 на 5. Двоим сверху надо. А обои больше единицы.
Нет, есть нижний и верхний. Есть нижний и верхний.
3 на 3. У нас 3 20. Нет, что это получается 1, 2, 1, 2, 5.
Вот первая, это третья колонна там.
Где?
Не, вот самая первая запись.
Здесь?
Да, потому что вот первая строчка, третья вот это.
Спасибо. Там хрень получилось.
Все.
А как получается сейчас, да? Не, попробуй сейчас дальше.
Все, у меня вышло квадрат.
Я могу посмотреть,
У нас вот здесь вот
ты знаешь, где это что?
Да, там
Давай я
вот здесь вот
объяснить, мне объяснишь, что
там вышло квадрат.
я сразу.
У тебя вышло там 2 во второй строчке снизу, а в квадрате было 2.
здесь вот одна строчка ушла.
Еще раз делаем.
Получается.
А откуда у тебя? А, ты
Ну,
Сразу автоматом.
ладно, я надеюсь, что это верно. Я из нижнего и верхнего, чтобы получить квадрат. Где там тоже 8, тут тоже 20. Да,
I think that's it for solving masks because you have some other topics to cover today. Let's look at the solution for the second one because it's simpler. Sorry.
The solution is
да.
Like 2b. It's here. Okay. Guys, the second one is simple. You ignore that it is some alphas. You start to do the Gaussian elimination. Like you subtract the first row from the second, you subtract it from the third, you get some values. Okay, you multiply it, the second row by alpha plus 1, subtract it from here. Toxic. There you get it. 1, 1, 1, 0, alpha minus 1, alpha square minus 1, 0, 0, 0. Like can you see it? Because there is some noise in terms of.
What we do? What we do to receive second zero at last time?
From this to this?
Yes.
Like, we multiply the second row by alpha plus 1. You remember, alpha plus 1 multiplied by alpha minus 1 is alpha squared minus 1. Then we subtract, we get here. Now we have several options. If alpha is equal to 1, we get 0 here, 0 here, 0, 0. So have like we get
Он страдает синдромом у тебя здесь есть, у тебя нужно пишет 3. Все. А равно 3. Конец, ты закончил решение задачи.
alpha minus 1.
Ты уже все решил.
Где-то нашел.
Все. Да. Нет, а откуда у тебя больше? У тебя только при этом, у тебя не меньше. Смотри, у тебя BC 5. Это 3 минус 5. Минус 15, минус 9. Больше туда?
Last row should be minus 2.
Мне что-то не нравится.
Да, last
Сюда мне минус единица. Да, если сюда поставлю, не больше того, что здесь нет.
Last element of last row should be minus 2.
Тебе, когда ты можно через минеров, тебе нужно выделять все в одну и все 12.
Просто вместо того, чтобы добавлять все значения подряд,
Там просто играет уже.
Это тоже быть на Да, у нас есть, если у нас нет равенства. Нет. Потому что сколько у тебя
Все, когда мы делаем
So guys, again for task A, if A equal to 3, you have rank equal to 2. Otherwise, the rank will be equal to 3. So all numbers except 3 will be rank 3.
So,
Sorry, this is
okay, now it's much simpler. We need to check if this is 0, to check if this is 0, this one, and yeah. And for all other cases run to the same. If it is equal to 0, then it's
you.
2. If it is equal to
No,
1,
no,
then
I
it's
just
1.
because I tried
If it is
something
minus
and I
2,
wrote it like
Okay.
it's run.
I'm sure. I hope you will prove me this on midterm. Только с утра, не на ночь.
Все, можно заканчивать.
Here. I think that's it. There is actually another way to count such things. The minor method. We do not have time to cover it, but please look somewhere at MathPro. It isn't really popular abroad of Russia. Like Russia, I think, is the only place where they teach this method because it is hard to apply for big matrices, but sometimes it can make your life easier. You can search for it on MathProfi for Russians and just Google it if you need an English explanation. Это видосы Олега. Он вам там все покажет. That's it.
Okay, guys. So about did they fix your by the way about attendance, I remind you that now you can mark attendance by your own. You can do it after the class till 8 p.m. So what else? Did they fix the Moodle? Let's say the test grade model. They fixed it. Now it's because as I know, in the morning it was just. Yes, great. Okay, who have more than 15 there? Oh yeah, at least some of you not blame me. Okay. So guys, now today we have two other topics. Actually one. Like this. This line on the plane. Before I'd like to say, I spent my weekend. I had another turslot with KFU in KAI, Kazan Aviation University, and my team won the second prize. Okay. Yes. So we had cooking, the competition, and we had. It was performance competition, and I was a worm. We make a parody of Dune, and I was a worm which was killed by myself. And after this, I spread tushonka from my body. So we took a lot of cans with meat, and I just spread it. Okay. Must blah 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 blah. Actually. In my slides, you have a spoiler there. Okay. So. Do it, you can do it at home. Okay. So now we are covering other topic as I told you, and what our goal is to the structure of all formats which you covered, to understand how to transform from one form to another form, and how to use all this stuff. Before I'm starting to speak, I'd like to listen what kind of words did you know from the lecture, and how many forms do you know. While you're thinking, I need to rearrange my slides. Okay, I heard some words like slope.
Yeah.
Slope intersects form, yes? Okay, one. Slave intersects form. General form, nice.
Parametric.
one. It's like Ubuntu. You can, well, okay. What else? Parametric. Okay. What else? I'm sure that you know. When you have, nice. And last one.
What? Parameter? Was.
Distance. Okay, no. Using normal line. We have line and we have normal this, and we can define the line using this normal line. We will discuss your behavior after the. Yeah. Okay. So what we should know before the midterm. Today we are covering line and plane. Later on the next lab we are covering plane and line and space, and after this you have midterm. Drop time, you know. Okay, don't worry. I'm sure. Actually, who have less than 10 score? Come on, guys. Vanya.
You know why I was
Okay.
so.
Today on the training you will feel something bad. Okay, where do we need this color? I mean, why do we need these forms? Actually, as you know, I started to learn linear algebra 3 years ago with students, and I understood that this topic is quite important for robotics applications. And actually, I firstly met it when I was in Bauman State University and learned kata because it's based on this. And now my goal to show you why do we need any other forms. They will have different names. It's not such forms which we are covering now, but the idea is the same. For instance, when we talk about kinematics of the point, we have these 3 forms. First one is this vector form. Who can say what is it? xy plus yg plus zk. It's linear combination. Come on, EGK. We can represent it in coordinate form. Just coordinates, as we usually. And natural form is quite interesting stuff. That for instance, we have a sinusoid or whatever, some line. So xy. In this case, what will be this point? Let's assume, I don't know, 3, 2. But in natural form, it will be the length of this curve. So this point will be, for instance, 1 meter. This point will be 2 meters. And it's not so trivial to go from the length form to coordinate form. You can do this, but it's not so trivial. You need to optimize the task. In terms of brute force, you can think like, have you covered how to find the area of integral? Yes, integrals. And you can find the length using some equation. It's integral, blah blah blah. So you can write a code that, for instance, we know I know this distance. I want to know this xy. I know the curve itself, and I just brute force put some xy, look the length using this equation, and do it step by step. Increasing axis, for instance, x coordinate. We can find this length. Right now we don't need it, but I just want to show you that there are different forms, and it's quite helpful for finding accelerations. Because in this case, I just need to differentiate and integrate it, and I will receive the number. In typical case, you need to find a gradient and so on, so it's more complicated. In CAD design, I remind you what is it? It's to make some 3D models, to become a podkablучником. There are three forms. You also can use these words, but it's in general case. This kind of forms for this particular line and plane. There are three forms: is explicit form. How's it in our case called? Slope intersects. Kx plus b. Implicit form. It's when look like this. We cannot represent a circle in explicit form. We can, but in this case we have how to say power of square root yet, and it won't be helpful for us. And we have parametric form. Parametric form can represent any kind of curve, like this, circle, line, and whatever. It's the main benefit of parametric form for our focus. And even more, we can easily discretize our system. Do you remember I explained it on the first lab? That we can assume our screen is a bunch of pixels, and we can receive t as one pixel, and we can just go from one pixel to another pixel using t. Also, as Lays mentioned about distance, parametric form is only one form which can be, we can find distance easily using parametric form. I recommend you to make a picture of this because you will use it on next slide. So take a picture. You can send it in your chat. There are 6 forms: general, slope intersect, passing through 2 points. Yes, I make mistake, typo there. 2 to 2. Canonical, parametric, and use normal line. Here we go. Your goal to find all forms for this line. Blue line is our touched line. Let's go. The red one. The red line is. There is no red line. Why? That's why I didn't pass the exam. So you go to receive all 6 forms for this picture. Easy flex. Chill, yeah. Давай, chill, делай. Он тебя на чили будет вертеть.
Желтый где Нет, когда ручка, ничего не хорошо пишет, максимально старый.
Do you have any questions? What again? Answers? I have answers. I will go show.
А и Б можно, короче, подставить координаты R, которые перпендикулярны. Обычно и двойная точка популярная, мы называем
Сейчас ответы будут.
Еще вопрос.
мы сказали, что сразу точка отсюда
Вот, хорошо. So, first question was that how to receive, what does it mean direction vector? Other questions? Oh, easy, easy. No, I mean, there are answers.
как сейчас? Типа, что тут писать?
Let's discuss, and also the previous batch they asked me what the difference between canonical form and through points. Actually, these two questions are really correlated. Who can explain what does it mean direction vector?
Direction vector is a vector which is parallel to a line.
How can we receive it? Where did we firstly meet it? Do you remember the task where we had some line? We used 7 methods, if I'm not mistaken, to find. In one of the methods was that we had a dot, a point, and we had a direction vector. Actually, we used parametric form to explain this. So, what's the difference between we have x minus x1 divided by x2 minus x1, yes? And we have in canonical form. How we find this vector? How can we find vector? What do we need to do? Subtract 2 points. This point and this point. So our x is just subtraction between 2 coordinate spaces. We want to say that everything is okay, you solve this task, you did it right.
Sorry. Why you have plus in the last one? Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. There should be minus. You're right, yes, I need to take minus. There is a typo, it should be minus 2. Because our R0 were 2, 0. So when we are going from the third to the fourth,
we are writing the canonical form, and after this we just equal to tau, and we have one system of equations, second system of equations, and we wrote it there. Why do we need second and third? Or first and second, this one? Because using this form we can easily find normal line, ABC. Why do we need normal line? Actually, there are a lot of applications where we need to find we have a plane and we have line on this plane, and we want to find normal. We can just write equation of this line and 2kb, and that's it. It's just the one of the easiest case to find normal. Yes, you can take two lines, find the cross product for them, or you just can have one line, and if you know this is put on a plane, put this, and that's it. Formula of distances. We have point to line. I put the name of the book, Umnov. Gorodetsky used it as a reference book 3 years ago when he was a boss of this gym, of this course. Unfortunately, in Russian, and a lot of students complained before that we don't have any English books. But right now you can find some reference from Umnov in English. I recommend you, if you didn't get some topics, I really recommend you this book, because actually I took this formula and he derives this formula, so it might help you for you. Umnov. The problem of the, again, R is a vector, radius vector. I especially put at the point because it's kind of slang, because it's quite weak meaning when we're talking about coordinates of the vector, points, and so on, because we are talking about vector, but if we have some coordinate system, this vector become a point also. Like we can say that, please took a coordinate 5, 3. It's point 5, 3, but actually it's also a vector 5, 3. So for simplicity in understanding, I especially put in this equation that R is a point which we want to find. And it's a geometrical representation. It's not a very big picture, but when you will open it at home, you can zoom in and understand what's going on there. It's one equation. So what we are having there? Cross product and A. What means A? Directed vector of a line. So we are presenting a line in which form? In which form? Where did we meet directed vector? In which form? In parametric form. Because parametric form is R equal R0 plus tau A, where A is directed vector. Tau is a scalar, just number. And we are putting on a basis, is the reason why we have x, y, x0 plus tau ax and ay. I see that you want to sleep, but we have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Try to hold. No, 20. I want to finish earlier. Because it seemed Tulia grabbed my backpack and disappeared. Line to line. It seems we should cover it in the next semester. I mean, not semester, next class. But I'd like to ask you. Okay, I'd like you. What do you think? What is it? What we are trying to find there? What does that mean, this notation? Need. Так, да, еще раз. Что пишут? I didn't get even in Russian.
Я вижу круглые скобочки, я считаю.
Okay, what
Тоже
else?
перед этим
By the
бот
way,
пишут.
I really like that you at least try to say something, because others are losers and they don't want to say any.
Scalar triple product.
Mwah! The best guy ever for today. 10 minutes. So yes, exactly. It's a scalar triple product. Смешное произведение. Why do we have this one there? What the result of scalar triple product? Scalar triple product. So why do we need this one?
Because distance can be different.
Yes, but why do we need Relapitis?
Maybe it can be.
Because distance can be negative.
Nice. Because distance, according to the definition, is positive value. Okay, now we are going to the tasks. My dear Галерка, it's your task. Давай, выбирайте, двое из вас, кто-то идет к доске. Можете на свои пары сказать. Что ты сегодня такой грустный? Ты обычно шутки самосмешками и мешаешь паре, а сегодня ты культурный. Да. Ну там хотя бы мирно спят. А мы оба в рыжем, кстати, тоже, наверное, план.
Интересно, почему ты возмущаешься? Завтра буду в красной рубашке.
Что? В красной рубашке? Ну она тоже в красной сидит, молчит.
Я такой себе. Завтра буду с металлическими вставками.
Ловить.
Так, первый.
So нет, you need to solve both of them, and first of all, let's discuss the algorithm. What we are trying to do.
So we put everything in. Can I erase? It's very polite.
Why it's polite?
Because he asks. Thank you. Erase.
High culture. Ёпта.
So I need to
What does it mean slow?
slow.
Yes.
Translation.
So you, the ask is to find slow. Where did you meet this word before?
Tasks.
In which kind of tasks?
Slow is something that if you have coordinates
Yeah.
and two lines. Not two lines. It is the angle.
Yeah.
It is a tangent angle between the line and.
So where did we meet it? In which formula?
In which formula?
Yes.
Yes.
Nice. So okay. So now we understand. We know what we need to find. Okay, what we are doing? What we are doing?
What we are trying to solve, it is fine to solve in 2 points.
So
Between 2
it's
points.
task. Yes.
Uh,
So let's discuss the algorithm first. Yes.
algorithm.
Yes.
What algorithm?
So
The formula.
How do you find okay, first point is 2 and 3.
okay.
The second point is 4 and minus 5.
Perfect.
And now the algorithm is we have m is equal to x2 minus y2 minus y1, and then we have to write x2 with minus x1.
Okay,
According to this algorithm.
not algorithm
Okay,
equation.
okay. According to this equation, we can find the slope.
Okay, guys, if you don't know, okay, nice. If you don't know how about this property, how can you find this?
Make
No, Lace, I'd like to listen to you.
make line from these 2 points and we
Using which form?
this that name x minus x1 over x2.
Passing through from 2 points. Okay, after this, what we're doing next?
We get the equation of the line, and
Yes.
we can get like this formula y equal mx plus b.
How?
By this,
No, see, guys, I mean,
by this formula.
yes, canonical form. So, you need to solve the second half, yes? No, I will finish. So, guys, pay attention, please. So, if we don't know that we have such equation, for instance, I didn't know before this class, I forgot about it. So, what I'm doing, what I did before. Firstly, we know 2 points, we can find the passing through 2 points. Okay, let's go to 2 points. What can we find next? Canonical form. What can we find from canonical? General form. If we know general form, we can go to the slope intersect. Because the difference, we just need to eliminate everything from y, and that's it.
But
And after this, we from canonical for slope intersect times slope. And after this, we know that from this m is we need to find m. Yes, it's much longer way than to just know this equation. But if you don't know about this, you can solve it using this way.
why can't we just make slope intercept form from 2 points?
You can try to solve system of linear equations, yes. Like, but actually, when you write like this, you are doing the, how to say, doing 2 points. Yes, you can, as from school. Actually, I did on my explanation. What is it? It's exactly, I had 2 points and I just wrote slope intersect form 2 times. But actually, if we rewrite it, we can rewrite it in such manner as, how to say, for 2 points. It will be exactly the same, I mean, formula. What about second one? So we had what kind of form?
This form.
No, we have try again. What in the initial?
Initial is linear.
No, try
The
again.
general form.
Nice. From the general form, we are going to the slope, and after this, we just took the second one. Nice, you can see. Ну брось на стол, Гриша. Ваня гопник. Okay. Who didn't get? Yes. Did you get the stuff? Yes. Nice. Who didn't get again?
Why can't we just do like this?
Можешь, но по факту что ты сделал сейчас? Что это? Ты написал каноническую форму, молодец. Потом поставил, ну, красавчик. Ты из канонической просто сразу перешел в этот, как он называется, в slow форму. So now, till starting this domain, I mean, now we have answers on all our tasks from the class. So yes, how many jaskals do we have there? Гребных шакалов. Камон. Что они?
Кто так решили?
Вот, шарит. So, камон, шакалов не знать мем, что ли, про шакалов? Там это subjective explanation. Ой, subjective meaning. Okay, the answer for the second one. Okay. Who tried to solve it at home? So can you show your picture?
I have question mark.
Okay, because a lot of people have problem with this task. If you try to solve it, can you show me your picture and I will say is it right? No. Because the main problem of trying to understand what's going on there. It looks like, holy crap, what this portion between axes bisected, some sector is going on there. What is portion? Yeah, that's okay. Exactly, nobody.
That's the problem, you know.
Is there, so you can meet a lot of tasks like this during your midterm and other classes. So yes, exactly. I'd like to face you the problem that you need to, how to say, increase your vocabulary and start to understand this bullshit tasks. Yes. Yes, you're right.
Like this, and then you.
Yes, exactly. So again, we want to find the equation of the line, the portion of which between axes are bisected at point 2,5. So we have some point 2 minus 5. We have some line, the portion of which between axes. Portion is соотношение. Bisected. So equal length. Because section, bisection, bisected.
Like
Yes.
Is this right?
The picture is mirrored. Don't ask why. I don't know why it was given in this manner. It should be like this. So answer is this one.
Ah, no, that's the same thing.
So you can solve whatever you like. It's just one of the solutions. If you didn't get how to solve it, open it at home and try to get what's going on. The last task for today. The main problem with this task is to know what has been concurrent. So concurrent, it's your bro, it's not your bro. So concurrent in Russian взаимопересекающиеся, yes. Some people ask me what the crap is written there, like have 3 or more points in common. We have one, let's say, 1 point there, 1 point there, and 1 point there. They should have 3 common points. How can we do this? We can do it only if we put it in one, let's say, in 1 point, yes. So it's just awkward definition in this case. But in general, you just look at the picture. In this case, they have 3 points, but it's not in the same place. In this case, it's common to one place. So how can we solve this task? We have 3 equations. What do you need to do?
3 or 4.
We just, yes. Yana, I see you didn't get something. What you didn't get? You look like that you are out of the class. Okay, so see some linear equations. For equations, we need to find 1 point. We put it, yes.
Why 3 equations?
Find the equation for its line concurrent with lines 1, 1, 1.
We have 2 points.
Because at least 3 and more.
We can find point from the first 2 lines and another point from the second 2 lines and make find the equation of the line between these 2 points.
The point of succession between two lines, bam bam, obtained by solving the following equations.
2 equation, yeah.
After this, we're adding, so therefore, point of succession is this one.
From the
And we put it in another, yes. And after this, we just put it
we
in.
have 2 points and make line from this point.
Yes. Sure.
Нет. Ездил в мини.
Actually, it doesn't matter in which form you are presenting the task. In some cases, on midterm, it can be written explicitly. You need to provide in general, in blah blah form. If it's not defined, you can provide it in any case if you like. Because as you can understand, you should understand that form is just form. It's the same. So this for today.